They made the serpent into a monster, a villain, a tempter of women, a whisperer in the dark. But go back further, before the Bible, before the fear, and you'll find something entirely different. The serpent was sacred. It was divine energy, life itself. It shed its skin not to deceive, but to be reborn. In ancient Egypt, the serpent was called the uraeus, a rearing cobra worn on the forehead of the pharaoh. It wasn't decoration. It symbolized royal power, divine authority, and inner sight. According to ancient Egyptians, the serpent was a guardian of the gods. In Hinduism, the serpent appears again, this time as Kundalini, a coiled force sleeping at the base of your spine. Awaken it, and it rises like a serpent through the chakras, unlocking vision, clarity, and transformation. This is not superstition. This is inner evolution. In Greece, they gave the serpent a new form, the Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail, a symbol of eternity, unity, cosmic cycles, birth, death, rebirth, a closed loop, a perfect whole. To the ancients, the serpent was the universe regenerating itself. In Mesoamerica, the Aztecs and Mayans worshipped Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, god of knowledge, wind, and creation. It was the serpent who brought learning, culture, and civilization, not a destroyer, a builder. Even in early Gnostic texts, those later banned by the church, the serpent was revered. Why? Because it offered knowledge, because it opened eyes, because it freed people from ignorance. Across continents and centuries, the serpent was a symbol of power, not poison. It represented renewal, wisdom, hidden energy, and inner awakening. So what happened? How did a symbol of transformation become the world's most feared archetype? And why did they need us to forget? Somewhere along the way, the serpent changed, from sacred to sinister, from guide to enemy. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the story that shaped half the world, the Garden of Eden. In the book of Genesis, the serpent tempts Eve. It tells her to eat from the tree of knowledge, not to destroy her, but to open her eyes. And when she does, God becomes angry. Adam and Eve are cast out. Shame is born. Humanity falls. But think about that. The serpent didn't kill them. It gave them consciousness. So why is that a crime? Now enter the Gnostics, early mystical Christians whose scriptures were later declared heresy. In their version, the serpent isn't the villain, it's the liberator. The true villain is the demiurge, a false god who created the world to trap souls in ignorance. The serpent, a messenger of the higher divine, an emissary of awakening. It didn't tempt Eve, it freed her. That's why the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." But now, look at Islam. The Quran tells the same Eden story, but strips away the snake entirely. There is no talking serpent, no demonic creature slithering through paradise. Instead, there is Shaitan, the whisperer. He speaks not through fangs, but through waswasa, the subtle whisper of ego. The temptation is internal, not an animal, not a monster, but a voice inside, saying, "You could be more." And this is the most profound shift of all. In Islamic tradition, the enemy isn't outside you. It's the nafs, the lower self, the untrained ego that resists truth, discipline, and humility. In Sufi philosophy, the serpent becomes metaphorical. The nafs is coiled, reactive, and primal. But if tamed, it becomes your greatest ally. Just like Kundalini, just like the Ouroboros, just like the feathered serpent. Even in the Quran, the serpent appears again, this time in the hands of Moses. When he throws his staff to the ground, it transforms into a living serpent, not a symbol of evil, but a divine sign that overpowers Pharaoh's illusion. The snake, once again, becomes a weapon of truth, So ask yourself, why did one tradition make the serpent demonic, another divine, and a third symbolic of the self? What were we being warned from or kept from? Maybe the serpent was never the problem. Maybe the problem was that it made you think for yourself. The ancients weren't just telling stories. They were encoding systems, maps of the human experience. And in those maps, the serpent wasn't a villain. It was a force, hidden, coiled, waiting to rise. In yogic philosophy, that force is called Kundalini, a serpent of energy coiled at the base of your spine, dormant in most. But in the awakened, it rises through the spine, through the chakras, through every layer of your being, bringing vision, power, and transformation. It is not evil. It is untamed potential. The serpent doesn't bite. It burns away illusion. Look at the caduceus, the symbol used in modern medicine. Two serpents spiraling around a staff. Balance, polarity, healing. Even Western science unknowingly carries the symbol of ancient energy. It's a map of duality, harmony, and inner alchemy. In Hermeticism, the serpent represents transmutation. It's the lower instinct, the raw, primal matter that must be refined into gold. In alchemy, serpents appear at the moment of transformation, when something dies and is reborn, when the ego dissolves and the higher self emerges. This is why in the ancient mystery schools, from Egypt to Greece to Persia, the serpent wasn't avoided. It was studied, respected, invoked, not because it was safe, but because it was real. Because true growth doesn't come from avoiding darkness, it comes from turning toward it and mastering it. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the dark, unconscious part of yourself you refuse to see. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The serpent isn't evil. It's your unclaimed power, your deepest instincts, your primal energy, waiting for discipline, awareness, and direction. You were told to suppress it, but the mystics, they learned to ride it, to raise it, to become it. By now, the pattern should be obvious. Across cultures, the serpent meant power, awakening, renewal, sight beyond the veil. But over time, something changed. The serpent was twisted into a villain, a monster, a lie. Who changed the story? And what were they afraid of? In the ancient world, knowledge was sacred and dangerous, because a man who sees clearly cannot be controlled. He cannot be enslaved. He asks questions. He walks away from the system. And that's a threat to any empire. The serpent, as a symbol, became too liberating. It was linked with the divine feminine, sexual energy and body awareness, inner power and personal transformation, and worst of all, truth without a middleman. You didn't need a priest. You didn't need permission. You just needed to awaken what was already inside, and that couldn't be allowed. So they demonized the serpent. They made it the enemy. They wrapped it around the tree of knowledge and turned wisdom into sin. And in doing so, they rewrote the most ancient story into a warning. Don't reach too high. Don't question. Don't awaken. Stay small. Stay obedient. Stay asleep. Carl Jung understood this game. He said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's exactly what happened. They didn't just bury the serpent. They buried you. Your instincts, your inner fire, your divine potential. And they replaced it with fear. But here's the part no one talks about. While they told you the serpent was evil, they never stopped using its power. The Vatican's Paul VI audience hall is shaped like a giant serpent's head. The Pope's staff, crowned with a crucifix that echoes serpentine form. The World Health Organization uses the caduceus, two serpents spiraling up a staff. Even the UN, military medical branches, and elite universities quietly honor serpent symbols. The same societies that told you to fear the snake enshrined it in their temples, crests, and logos. They feared what the serpent would awaken in you, but never forgot what it meant for them. Here's the truth. The serpent was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your shadow, your life force, your truth teller in disguise. You can only suppress the truth for so long. Eventually, it returns, and the serpent, the ancient symbol they tried to erase, is waking up again. In today's world, the serpent reappears in the unlikeliest places, unlocking the spine, releasing tension, raising energy through yoga and breathwork, revealing visions of coiled energy, inner light, cosmic memory through psychedelic medicine, merging ancient symbolism with neuroscience, energy fields, vibration through spiritual science. People are no longer afraid. They're curious, they're remembering, and what they're finding is that the serpent lives within. The coiled power at the base of the spine, the instinct you buried, the intuition you silenced, the clarity you were told was dangerous. It's all still there, waiting. Even in scripture, echoes of the truth remain. In Matthew 10:16, Christ says, "Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Not fear the serpent, be like it, cunning, aware, uncoiled, unapologetically alive." This is not about snakes. This is about your energy, your revolution, your refusal to stay asleep. Because the serpent was never about evil. It was about transcendence, about transformation. And if you've made it this far, maybe you've already felt it. The stirring, the restlessness, the pull towards something ancient and real. It's not superstition, it's remembrance. When you stop running from the serpent, you rise.